we have a good number of students and alums that have joined the live guest lecture. It is our pleasure to have Mr. Adhip Palchaudhuri, who is the current chairman and managing director of Balmer, Lawrie & Co., a mini Ratna under the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. He took charge on July 1st, 2024, after serving as a director of service business since 2020, where he led the company's logistics, cold chain, and travel division, along with its startup fund initiative. With over 30 years of corporate experience, he joined Balmer Lawrie in 2012 to drive ERP implementation and later on headed sales, marketing, and supply chain for its largest manufacturing unit. Before that, he worked across leading IT sectors and consulting firms in India and abroad. An alum of IIT Roorkee and IIM Lucknow, he's also a certified and a registered corporate coach, making him a well-rounded leader who blends business strategy, technology, and people development. It's our pleasure to call you upon the stage. Handing over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Ruhi, and thank you to the entire Somaya ecosystem for having invited me out here. The talk title is Personal Advancement and Organizational Growth, a Synergy. It's slightly, I think, unclear as to how these things will gel, and honestly speaking, I'm also not necessarily very sure. So what will be great if we can have interaction in terms of queries, and then it will be easy for me to respond. But having said that, I'll start a little bit about my career, because the journey that I've had has had certain ups, downs, points of inflection, and changes. So some of those have actually contributed towards, I think, being what I am. And to that extent, if any of it makes any sense for anybody who's listening or watching, it'll be a great thing for me. So I am a Calcutta boy. I was born and brought up in Calcutta, and after finishing my 12th, I got into Roorkee, as was mentioned by Ruhi when she was introducing me. Now, after +2, I wrote all the various kind of entrance exams. So I had actually got selected for, in the West Bengal joint entrance, there's a concept called West Bengal joint entrance. And I don't know whether any of you people are aware, there is a college, in fact, there's a university called Jadavpur University. So Jadavpur University is based in Calcutta. It's actually rated very high in terms of engineering and all of that. And I had also got selected for selected in IIT. My rank would have helped me get possibly naval architecture or aerospace in Kharagpur. And it could have got me somewhere else also, but I know of. And then I got through Roorkee. Roorkee had an excellent rank actually for, I mean, I must have performed above par during that exam, and had got a rank of very high, so I would have got selected. In fact, my preference was electronics, and I was getting electronics out there. So I opted for Roorkee, and I think that was one decision which has made an immense difference to what I've been able to, in that sense, become. So, question to anybody out here, we've got some mic or something for people? If not, anyway, we can always show. So why do you think it would have made a big difference for a person going to Roorkee? This is 1988. Okay, there's a hand raised at the back. Just go ahead and speak up. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, absolutely. It's not just about going away from home. As I said, I mean, had I picked up Jadavpur, I would have stayed at home. If I had picked Kharagpur, then I would have come back for during my weekends possibly. But I picked Roorkee. Roorkee at that point of time was not an IIT. It was at that point of time a university. It used to be called University of Roorkee. People used to be confused about Roorkee, Rourkela, etc. Roorkee in Calcutta is honestly speaking not at all well known. Surely it was not well known out there. It is extremely very much in the Hindi heartland of Mirzapur types almost. Not so bad, but then it is almost at that point of time Saranpur, Meerut, Muzaffarnagar. These are towns which you probably will not hear about, and certainly at that point of time I had not heard about. The surroundings in terms of the people and the student crowd also, I think we had a class of around 300 to 350, I don't know, all disciplines put together. I think maybe a handful of us would have come from Calcutta, a few of them from Delhi, few obviously from Bombay and Chennai, but then 250 to 300 I think would be from the neighboring area. So the whole aspect about getting out there and then settling down into an environment which was, I would say, almost alien, it made a big difference to the way I think finally am. I mean, it's not necessary that is the only trigger, but then it certainly helped. So one of the main things that I have for me and hence for organizations also is about adaptability. So, I mean, the environment will not change, unlikely, unless you're like a super change maker like Gandhi or somebody. You have to change yourself. So you have to adapt. So I think that was an instance of, and then there are many such instances. I'll talk about some of these as I mention in my whatever time that I've got allotted. But then it's about adapting. So organizations also have to similarly adapt. And I'll quickly give an example of Balmer Lawrie and then come back to my journey. So anybody out here is aware of what Balmer Lawrie is, what Balmer Lawrie does? Quickly. No? Okay, no problem. So Balmer Lawrie actually has a massively old... oh, okay, quickly. You've got to respond very quickly. Yeah. We are in multiple domains, yeah. Okay. 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 Thank you very much. What's your name? Ishan. So Ishan says that he's gone into our website and then he's seen that we are very diverse. Yes, so we are having grease and lubricants, we are having packaging, etc., etc. And hence it's slightly confusing as to what is it that we do. But at the same time, he's also impressed about our diversity and breadth. Now, thing that is important for Balmer that I want to talk about right now is that we are right now in our 159th year of existence. 159, that means we've already finished 158 years. So 158 years we've not been doing the same thing. There have been many occasions where some things we have done and we've got out, we've been probably tried something else, we've lost money, etc., etc., so many things. But then, for us to have survived that entire range of years, it would have required us to be adaptable. So I'll just take one example from one business and then move forward. So one of the businesses that we have, which is in fact our largest driver of turnover, is industrial packaging. In industrial packaging, we make 210-liter steel drums. It's like this big, 1 meter high roughly. The ones that are primarily used for transporting lubricants, chemicals, etc., bulk chemicals. Okay. Now, that particular business, we are the largest in the country. We've got 6 plants, we've got immense capacity, we've got like tremendous quality and so on and so forth. But that product, we were actually, so we also, we are coming under, we are a PSU. Balmer is a PSU, comes under Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gases. So other companies which are coming under petroleum and natural gas ministries are companies like IOC, BPC, HPC, etc., who are all giants and they've got massive lubricants businesses. So they used to, so the market, the entire market for this particular packaging product is roughly around 1.5 crores. That means 1.5 crores drums get sold in the country, of which 20 lakhs odd are from these 3 companies, IOC, BPC, HPC. Now, 8 to 10 years back, there was a government notification which put this particular product in the list of MSME. You know what MSME is? Which basically meant that since we are not an MSME, we cannot produce and supply these drums to these companies. We can supply to others, but then 20 lakh drums out of say a 1.5 crore market, this is now, if you roll back 10 years or so, it would have been a smaller market. That's almost 15% of the market, right? 15% of the market at one particular time got taken away from us. We are right now close to almost 50 lakh drums. So at a certain point of time, we would have been doing almost 7-8 lakh drums in that particular segment, which also, once again, is almost 15% of what we were doing. So that is something that market was deprived. So that was taken away. So so this is a question of adapting, and hence we have to see as to how we kind of looked at that. So what we did was we focused instead on making sure that our quality goes up and our target segment changes apart. I mean, of course, it's not that it changes, it just moved up, and we started making sure that we are able to target all the MNCs. So there are massive MNCs also, Shell, Total, Castrol, etc., etc. In lubricants, in chemicals, there are companies like BASF, Dow, Bayer, galaxy of chemical companies. These are multinational companies. Their standards are very high. So we shifted our mindset from making sure as to how you can supply through a tender to a PSU company, and shifted it to make sure that we move and make sustainability, quality and service as the mechanism through which you can get to these kind of customers. So we have a plant at Taloja near Kharghar. So we have a plant out here now, where we are using a quality of steel which is such that on which you can paint directly. Earlier, what was happening is that you get in a steel, and steel would naturally be rust prone, hence you'll have a film of oil on that. And then through almost virtually like the way you clean your body, so you'll use a soapy solution to take out the oil. By taking out the oil, you are also generating a lot of effluents. It takes a lot of space, takes a lot of water. It's actually a non-value-added activity. But very few companies, in fact, we are probably the only company in the country who's using that kind of steel, because that's an expensive kind of steel. So we shifted our mindset from trying to be the lowest cost to a much higher sustainability kind of a company. Hence, that entire effluent, so it became a zero liquid discharge plant. We opted for paints which were much more, I would say, eco-friendly, so there's no chromium and things like that, and made sure that we are able to pick a product, place a product in the minds of the customer where the conversation shifts from the price point from as to how we are able to be much better in the sustainability quotient. These kind of MNCs, they value it. So hence, we have now the largest service provider for them, and we are operating at a level where, as I said, we are now hitting record numbers. So it is not something that we kind of set back. I mean, we sat down and started crying as to what's going to happen. So one has to be adaptable, change focus, keep the focus on the customer, shift, move on. So this was an example of when I had, in my personal journey, had to adapt. And if you look at my journey subsequently, so I completed my engineering in Roorkee, and then I got placed with Tata Steel at Jamshedpur. I got placed in that sense technology. So there are two kinds of trainees adoptions that they have. They take graduate trainees who are mostly the mechanical, electrical, chemical, who are probably working in the plants, and then they had taken a massive bunch of trainees in the computer departments. So there are two departments. One is computer services, the other is automation. I was in the automation division, but the bulk of the students, they were all actually had been absorbed for the first wave of computerization was happening. This is 92. And that point of time, they had taken a product called IBM ES 9000, which was a mainframe. Does anybody know what a mainframe is? I'm not expecting anybody to know, because that is real prehistoric at this point of time. But the thing is that what happened is after 2 years, almost the entire bunch of system trainees left the organization. Most of them got jobs in the US. Some of us, we got through MBA, few got through GRE and went for higher studies. But it was, I mean, I would have been in a minority in terms of opting to write CAT and then subsequently get through an IIM. But then the larger possibility would have been for people to go and immediately go abroad. I mean, there were very good jobs going around. $75,000, $80,000 at that point of time was not a small number. And we could have actually gone. Most of the people went, actually. So the second part of this talk comes to about making choices which are at times you are not even sure as to whether it is a right choice. So I don't think I was very sure that the choice is right. But when you look back, you see that, okay, this was a choice made and maybe it made sense. So at this point of time, there's this particular poem that I just want to touch upon. So any idea as to what poem I'm talking about? Let me see. So people have heard about Robert Frost. Famous poem is The Road Less Traveled, exactly. So there's this, I'm just reading out the last paragraph. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So if you look at this particular last, this is the paragraph that I'm reading out only. So I shall be telling this with a sigh. So I don't know about whether it's about with a sigh or not, but somewhere ages and ages hence. So now I'm talking about 35 years down the line. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that made all the difference. Now this is something that has happened to me more than once actually, because after I got through IIM, I passed out and I got a job, just like all of you people are there in campus. I got a job with PwC at that point of time, Pricewaterhouse. Subsequently, merger happened and became PwC, and I was in the management consulting division out here in Mumbai. And then onwards, I spent almost 15, 16 years working in management. I won't use the word management consulting, in IT consulting, because with PwC, we started working in some of the leading SAP implementations. And I was part of some of the first implementation in the country, first few, I think. Till 2012, I used to work in this world of PwC first, and then subsequently, for a short time, I used to work for ICICI, but then I got into Infosys, and then from Infosys, I got to TCS, and then from TCS, I made a shift to Balmer Lawrie. Now, this is a question that I get asked very often as to why did I shift, etc., because Balmer Lawrie is a public sector company, and I used to have a different career path in Infosys, TCS, so it's like at that point of time, it's not it probably is a slightly different world, especially for students right now or youngsters who are getting into this IT consulting world. But at that point of time when I was there, it was a glory days because we would be growing. I joined Infosys when our turnover was $500 million and in 2001. And when I moved out in 2008, it was $4 billion. That means in 7 years, it grew by 8 times. 7 years, it grew by 8 times. So the question is, once again, it was a question of road less traveled by. And at that point of time, I made a choice to join this company. I had certain personal reasons. I don't think I was necessarily driven by professional reasons alone. Otherwise, I probably would not have joined at that point of time. But if you see, it worked out very well for me because when I joined this company, Balmer Lawrie, I wanted to be the CIO. I joined to head their SAP implementation from within the company. They did not have anybody to implement. They did not have anybody knowing SAP. Anybody out here knows SAP? Yeah? Yes? Tell me. Yeah? That lady, she raised her hand. So let's give the mic to her. She's wearing specs there.
Hello. The accounting software, SAP HANA, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So what she's saying is that it's an accounting software and she also used a terminology called S4 HANA, right? Okay. Anybody has anything else to add to that? There's this guy in specs.
It also consists of ERP, which is basically means enterprise resource planning, which is a part of supply chain only, consisting of inventory, process management, not only accounting but also end-to-end part of overall tracking the production to the part of logistics.
Okay. So I think that's a fuller answer, so I'll go with that. So SAP is a company, a German company. At that point of time, it was the initial, I think one of the initial, they had this product called SAP R3. There's a full name for R3, etc. But let's not bother about it. So SAP R3 was a product which was doing exactly what this guy is saying. So it's an ERP, enterprise-wide resource planning, which basically takes into context production, sales, inventory, and of course has the accounting implications. So hence it is also accounting. So now this particular company and this particular product is an incredibly successful product. Almost all the companies, all the large companies that you can think about in the world, I'm saying, there'll be very few who are not running on SAP. There'll be very few. At least for sure, companies on manufacturing and on the product side, probably services companies may have a different equivalent, but then they might also be using SAP for the finances. Now what happened is that SAP was trying to come into India 94, 95, and it was having its initial implementations. Now I was part of, as I said, PwC, and then I got lucky. I got selected for the projects that we were doing at that point of time. So we were doing project for Larsen and Toubro at Powai. So I used to stay at Goregaon, and I used to come down every day through RA Colony and come to Powai for almost 1 year, one quarter of a year. So we were doing this particular project, and it became a big success, etc., etc. But then the point is not that. The point is that SAP as a product is so successful and so embedded in the entire ecosystem of Indian corporates that I've actually had the fortune of working on SAP throughout my life till the time that I actually shifted from corporate IT to industrial packaging. I'll just talk about that also. So from 96 to 2012, almost entire period, apart from few years, I was associated with SAP, providing SAP services. I'm not a techie, I'm not a coding kind of a person, but understanding of the product and understanding as to how it can be utilized in the context of business, I think that gave me a phenomenal longevity. And that is something that I also want to talk about. So first thing that I talked about was adaptability, and the second thing was about foundation. Okay, so the period from I think 98 till around 2002, when I actually worked on some of these marquee implementations, gave me such a foundation and gave me such a base that it kind of pulled me along all through. So I wanted to get out of SAP. In fact, I got out of SAP by saying that, okay, I'll start working for another division within Pricewaterhouse. I said that, okay, I don't want to do any further SAP project. Give me something else. So they gave me strategy consulting. I quit PwC. I joined ICICI's venture capital group at that point of time. But unfortunately, what happened was 9/11 happened, and the entire and dot-com crash happened, and so people were not investing. So I was sitting out there along with others, trying to figure out as to what were the holes in the business plan of various kind of these pitches that people were making. and nothing was happening. So another former colleague of mine who was my project manager, he by that time had joined Infosys, and he called me and said that why don't you join Infosys? And that is precisely what happened. I was at Bangalore for a work trip. I went down, had an interview, and then subsequently I was given an offer letter for Infosys. Point out there is, and subsequently also it has made a difference in my life, is making sure that the network that you have is strong enough. So when you talk about a foundation and when you talk about network, it applies also to corporates. Like say for example, if I look at Balmer, Balmer has, as you mentioned, diverse set of businesses. Now, if I am inside a company through, say, for example, our travel and ticketing services, and most of the government and large number of PSUs are taking our services for ticketing, but then they could also be customers for our, say, for example, logistics, and or maybe for our industrial packaging. So how we are utilizing the network, that becomes a very big success factor, not only for individuals, also for companies. So once you're inside a company, getting a customer is really difficult. There is no doubt about it. I mean, there are these so-called theoretical points saying that getting a new customer is 10 times compared to retaining an old customer, etc., etc. I don't know what those figures are, but getting a customer is extremely difficult. So if you've got a customer, you got to hold on to it, and instead of just doing one thing, trying and doing more than one, that makes a difference. So for example, I'm giving an example of a customer for us, Steel Authority of India Limited, SAIL. Everybody knows about SAIL. So we do classic 360, because from SAIL we are buying steel for our steel drums business. We are selling grease and lubricants for their plant and whatever their steel mills. We are doing logistics because we are doing some import for them. And we are also doing some travel business, ticketing, events, etc. But the point out here is that while we are doing all of these in a standalone manner, me as a CNMD, I have a direct line with the sales CNMD, where we are able to make sure that the relationship that our companies have are looked at from the apex point of view. And so hence, if there are some small hurdles which come on the way, then we are able to help overcome. What this has resulted in, I'm talking of network. At this point of time, I said that I've got some keywords. The first one is adaptability. The second one I talked about was about something else, but then I'm right now touching about network, and then I'll come back. Second one was foundation, and right now I'm talking about network. So now we are having this relationship at a apex level that has allowed us to launch a completely new line of business for Balmer. So Balmer has logistics always, but we have been doing things which are like air import, air export, ocean import, ocean export. What we've started very recently, in case anybody tracks Balmer would get to know, is that we've started freight train operations, which basically means that if SAIL, in this case we've started with Rourkela, SAIL Rourkela produces finished steel and it has to go to, let's say, Faridabad or NCR. In that case, it moves by rakes, trains basically. So these rakes are provided by who? By Indian Railways. Indian Railways, however, is having a massive problem now of rake shortage. If rake shortage happens, that means steel is getting produced, but it is not finding an avenue. The distribution is not happening. What will they do? they'll have to move via trucks. It is very expensive, extremely expensive, and of course, not necessarily sustainable. So they necessarily want to move by rakes only. So there is a particular scheme that Indian Railways has for corporates like us, SAIL itself can also do, is to buy their own rakes and deploy on Indian Railway tracks. The engine and the crew will be provided by railways. The asset will be ours. So an individual rake costs something like 25 crores, and it will also fetch, I mean, of course, it's going to have a lifetime of almost 10 to 20 years, etc., etc. But this is a business which kind of was not being done by us under any circumstances. We were not in rail logistics. In fact, there are few companies in rail logistics. Companies are there primarily in container CTOs, container train operators like Adani, etc., etc. But then freight train was not something that we were doing. This happened, this emerged as a discussion between the CMD and of SAIL and us and me, where we were trying to explore as to what more can be done. So this importance of network will always be there. So how you forge the network at a corporate level, at an individual level, that's going to make a difference at all points in time. Coming back to foundation, and one of the things that I talked about was about Balmer Lawrie's foundations, because we are 158 years old and we are diverse. So how is it that we are like this? I have no clue, but we have got 2 volumes of books which talks about the history, and the one that I am going to talk about is that how did this company come about? It actually came from 2 people. One is Balmer and the other fellow is Lawrie, Stephen George Balmer and Alexander Lawrie. They apparently decided, 2 Scotsmen had come to Calcutta during those days of Raj, and they wanted to make a fortune for themselves, and they flipped a coin, and that's how they said that, okay, Balmer apparently won, and the company started with the name Balmer and Lawrie. Stephen George Balmer had passed away very soon, like within months or weeks, years of forming the company in 1867. Lawrie was in command of the company till almost, I think, 1890s. So almost 30 years he was there. So first businesses that we were doing at that point of time was importing of Scotch whiskey, Scotland. The other thing that we were doing at that point of time was booking of passages on ships. So right now we are having a travel business where we are booking tickets for people. At that point of time we were booking passages for ships. Right now we are having a logistics business. At that point of time we were helping people import whiskey. Lawrie used to sit in a room. It must have been a small room only, but he used to have different desks. The desk like this, desk like this, desk like that. And he used to have different chair table basically. So when he was doing business which was relevant for the logistics business, he used to sit in the logistics desk, move over to the travel desk, move over to the tea plantation desk or whatever desk. What does it mean? What does it mean for us now when I look back? One is that some businesses are very, very core, so which is something that we have done for a very, very long time. And the second part is that diversity is also something that is very core to us. Right from the beginning, so there are obviously enough literature to talk about core competency, etc., etc. And I'm not challenging, doubting that at all, because who am I? We are all at this point of time serving the company to the best of our abilities. We are not trying to necessarily either change the entire destiny or question as to what was done. But the point is, then you look back and try and rationalize and try and see some of the learnings, then we see that this whole diversity thing had been there right from, these diverse businesses have been there right from the beginning. Then there is this whole concept. So this some things which are core to companies. So the foundation has to remain very strong, and you have to make sure that you are able to live with that for a very long time. That is exactly happened to me also. So as I said, my foundation happened because I got into SAP, and then I tried to get out. I joined ICICI Venture. It was such a torrid time. I got into Infosys. I stayed there for 7 years. Those 7 years were fantastic, as I talked about earlier, because we grew from 500 million to 4 billion. That means tremendous amount of growth happened. What does growth mean? I think that's something that you have to understand. It's not about me being there, etc., etc. When growth happens, and I think that is something that when you people get into your respective areas, wherever you are going to do corporate work, I think that's an incredible situation. Growth means you expand. When expansion happens, you recruit. You personally grow. I would have traveled to some 15, 20 countries, because see, what happened was I started, and then I got placed out of Hyderabad, and then my account was Apple. So within, I think, 4 months, obviously those were not the H1B days that are here now. Within 4 months of joining, I was actually in Cupertino in California, working for Apple Computers out there. Incredible exposure to the whole concept of how things happen out there. There used to be this concept called brown bag lunch. So we were IT division, supporting the IT division of Apple, of course. But then business people, they used to come down to IT every month and during the lunch hour, and they used to carry their own lunch in a brown bag, hence terminology. It was called a brown bag lunch. So we got to know from them live as to how they are thinking about various things. So iPod came up at the time when I was there. iTunes was coming up out there. So one can have an interaction, understand how they think. And that was phenomenal. But I came back from US very soon, and I'll talk about that immediately now, because of, once again, personal reasons, which was because I wanted to make sure that I'm with my family, with my wife. And she works still with Reserve Bank, and she also wanted to have a career track for herself, right? And if I had stayed there, then it would have created a difficulty, or she was not finding it easy to let go, and absolutely perfectly. So these are the kind of choices that will come also to you as you grow forward. So what happened then was I remained based out of Hyderabad, and we grew the business from there. But then I was not in that sense customer facing, but I used to go many times for closing out deals and blah, 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 all of those. But one very important thing that happened, and that also was an eye-opener for me, is that as the business was growing so fast, it was almost impossible for the company to recruit that many people with expertise, because you want to get people like I was having some prior experience in SAP. At that point of time, various other enterprise applications took off. SAP, Oracle, CRM, analytics, etc., etc. But it would have been impossible to get that many number of trained professionals from the industry. So what do you do at that point of time? Question. What happens? If you're not, there's a massive growth opportunity, but you're not finding the ways and means to recruit. You train. So we recruited people like you, which were basically MBAs from tier 1, tier 2 colleges, and we built within our own campus something which we used to call as Enterprise Solutions Academy. So we used to train people on SAP, we used to train people on Oracle, we used to train people on whatever, all these things. And at that point of time, since I was based out of Hyderabad and this academy was based out of Hyderabad, I was given the responsibility of driving the SAP practice, whatever, capability building. At that point of time, I would have felt that, am I doing the best utilization of my time? I'm not in front of the customer, I'm not helping them win deals, I'm not actually executing projects. 50% of time I was doing that, the remaining 50% I was doing this academic stuff. But then, what happened was, in a span of 1 to 2 years, our academy started churning out the numbers, which finally led to a situation where almost 50% of the billable staff, 50% of the billable staff were actually coming out of the academy. So if the academy had not been successful, then the ability to grow would have been curtailed. So it's not that I thought about the academy, but the fact that I participated in the success of the academy led to a tremendous success of the company at some other area. So point for, that was a corporate story, but as a point for every aspiring professional is that opportunities come and you won't necessarily know what opportunity is going to make a massive difference and what opportunities is going to be something which is just kind of passing by. But you have to be absolutely open to the opportunities. You have to be absolutely open to the opportunities. And then try and make the best out of it. So give 100%, 120%, 150% in trying to make sure that the cards that are dealt with, you're dealt to you, you are trying to make sure that you are playing to the best of your abilities. Right? So that's something which is very important because things will change and you try and grab the opportunities and try and make sure that you do the best that you can. And this has happened to me umpteen number of times. But I'll talk about it now once again. So I joined Balmer Lawrie in 2012 and we started our ERP implementation project. We were much later compared to, because I've told already that I used to be doing SAP implementation 96, 97, 98, 99. So the top corporates, Asian Paints, L&T, ITC, they at that point of time adopted for it. PSUs adopted much later. Balmer Lawrie was definitely a laggard and we were actually doing this project in 2012. So we did the project from 2012 to 2015 and at that point of time the project got over. So I had the choice of trying to be in the support, which is actually quite boring, or trying to do something else. Fortunately, my leadership allowed me to do something else, which meant that take me out of corporate IT and place me in Mumbai back, at that point of time I used to be in Calcutta, back in Mumbai to head, I think she spoke about it a little bit, initially the supply chain function and subsequently the sales function of a steel division, industrial packaging division. Something completely alien. I've never, ever been associated with manufacturing. I've always been a desk worker in IT. So, I mean, desk in the sense, systems, not in the physical world. So then I used to be visiting steel mills and in this job, and then paint factories, and so on and so forth. Subsequently, I started in the business in the sales side, and then I used to visit very, very small towns because the plants of our customers, chemicals, honey, lubricants, could be at different mango pulp. It could be at different places. But then I used to be going along with my sales team to meet customers. and do negotiation, deals, etc. So these are things that I've never ever done in my life. And some such things will come maybe in your lives also. You get to a situation where you are doing things you've never possibly done in your life. Why did I come out here? Because when I joined Balmer Lawrie, at that point of time, I was thinking that I will become a CIO, Chief Information Officer, not Investment Officer. So I was at that point of time senior in the in the corporate IT, and I was really looking forward to the point where I'll be looked at as the head, because the person who was heading IT was retiring in a few months' time. So this was June of 2014. This gentleman would have been retiring in January 2015, and I was really looking forward to that. But then what happened was, Balmer Lawrie decided to come up with an advertisement in the newspaper saying that they want to hire a CIO. So that obviously was a big setback for me. I was aspiring to be the one, and they could have always elevated me. Instead of that, they said that, okay, we are going to hire from outside. The only concession that happened was that I was also allowed to be part of the interview. There were like 8 candidates. I was one of those. I was interviewed first. Others were interviewed later. Somebody else got selected. It was easily one of the low points of my life. There were many low points in my life, but this was easily one of the lowest points, because I didn't know exactly what to do then, because this was a career path that I thought I'll go in, then become a CIO, and then do something else, I don't know what. But then the whole CIO track got taken out because they've chosen somebody else. So that was the time when I was very low, but then I think that network thing that I talked about earlier, my bosses, I think, were much more supportive of me, and they gave me this opportunity to come into this industrial packaging business. And what happened after that was this 4.5 years grind that I did in the industrial packaging, it created that opportunity for me, because the company at large, I think, had a much higher belief in me than I had possibly within myself. And that point of time, I got selected as the director for service business. I was on the board. So the way the PESB selection happens is that they call certain set of people for interviews. Amongst Balmer Laurians, there were 6 people called for the interviews. I was the youngest, in the sense junior most, not necessarily youngest by age, but junior most by designation. But then I got selected. Why? Because, of course, I must have done well in the interview. My overall capabilities must have been there. But then the person who's there in the interview panel is an external group. They are assisted by our CMD. Okay? So when the question would have come as to who you think that would be the best choice for this particular position, my CNMD must have supported my candidature. I'm guessing, because I was not there. So once again, very important to make sure to build the network, work to the best of your abilities given whatever opportunities come your way. In fact, once again, just like the way I was hoping to the CIO and I did not get it, similarly, when I was in industrial packaging business also, I was hoping that I'll get to be the head of the industrial packaging, but that also didn't come to me. So setbacks will always happen. I did not get selected, for that matter, in my CAT first time. Not even for the first time, it was second time also. So I was 92 pass out, but I got into it in 94. In fact, 93 I got to the interview stage, and I had a fantastic GD round and an interview round. I was almost sure that I'll get it, but it didn't happen. 94, I thought I had underperformed, but it happened. So setbacks will happen. You don't necessarily know as to how things will work out. But when the chances come, you have to grab it at the best way possible. And I mean, of course, I am not at that scale, but Roger Federer's interview at, not interview, Dartmouth graduation speech, does anybody know, anybody seen that? It was, no? You have? Exactly. Exactly. Great. So, I mean, just for the benefit of everybody, I'm going to, what's your name? Sarthak. Sarthak talks about the case where, situation where Federer was giving a speech at University of Dartmouth's graduation ceremony. He talked about various things, but the first thing that he talked about was this. He said that on an average, he was like number one, right? Federer is like out there. So the total number of points that he had won would have been roughly around 52-53%. About. Not 60%, not 70%, but something just about 50%. Maybe 1% more, maybe 2% more. But the total number of matches that he has played, what do you think is his win percentage? You don't have to even guess. So it probably would be something like 80-90%, right? Otherwise, he would not have been Federer. So the point that he was trying to make is that I have won 51% of the points that I've played, but I've won 80% of the matches that I've played. Why? That means when those key moments happen, you have to just grab those. The key moments happen, you have to grab those. In that case, it creates, that is those are the points of inflection. So when your career is going to move, some points would be key, so you have to just grab them. So for me, director services position was actually that. Because once I got to director services position, CNMD was actually, I was always in the pole position. Because PSUs, they normally go with seniority a lot. I mean, you have to do well, etc., etc. But if you're there ahead of the others, then there's a greater chance that you'll be successful. So those key moments, I think you have to grab and make sure that you're going to be able to turn the tide to the point, to the extent possible. Things are not always in your control. Same happens with organizations. And I'm going to just talk about, and that's going to be the end of what I had to say, is our travel business. And the day that I started as Director Services was 1st of March 2020. And immediately after that, COVID happened. So the biggest fallout or the biggest outcome of COVID for us was the collapse of our ticketing business. So we do, pre-COVID, we were doing roughly around 11 to 12 lakhs of air tickets for government personnel and for PSUs. Within a few months, the entire thing completely shut down because there was not a single flight happening. Starting July, August, domestic flights started happening slightly. International was not there, and so on and so forth. So the entire 2021 was a washout. 21-22 was also largely a washout, though it just started picking up in the latter part. Now, we finished 24-25 with 34 lakh tickets. So we were 11 lakh tickets pre-COVID. We are now 34 lakh tickets. We were barely making 5 to 6 crores profit. Certainly single digit. I don't remember the profit figure. This last year, 24-25, we have got almost 72 crores profit from the travel business. So it's our most profitable business last year. Now, I felt, once again, looking back, this was a seize the moment situation for us, because when the travel business collapsed, then we did not let go of that great crisis. Of course, it was a very painful time. Some people had to be even let go. But then, keeping that aside, we utilized the time very well. We consolidated. Ticketing used to happen at every office. Instead, we made a hub. We built in great technology. We brought in mobile, etc., etc. So many things. Super seize the moment happened when Air India got privatized. Air India got privatized in October or December or January of 21, 22, that time frame. Earlier, government had the thing of you can buy tickets from Air India, and because Air India was a government airline, and you could get it reimbursed. Once Air India's disinvestment happened, then that particular thing went out of the way, and government came up with a revised thing saying that, okay, you can buy tickets either from Lawrie or from IRCTC or Ashoka Travels, which was already there. All three of us are, in some sense, state actors, and we were the only ones who were supposed to be getting tickets from. But Air India used to sell a lot of tickets by themselves. The moment that changed, what happened was that we were, I think, very quick off the starting block, and we came up with a portal for government employees. Within 3 months, our portal was up and running. 1st of April 2022, our portal was up and running. We had, prior to that, 0 portal sales, obviously. Now, 24-25, when I finished, as I said, 34-35 lakh tickets, almost 40% of tickets are being sold on the portal. Okay, so that would have meant almost 12, 13, I don't know, 15 lakh tickets, let's say. So when you see 11 lakhs to 33 lakhs, a lot of those numbers are courtesy the portal. What do you think is the highest selling destination? Highest selling destination? Domestic. So we are, we do roughly around 70,000, 80,000 international tickets, rest are all domestic. Within domestic, highest selling destination. Strangely, Srinagar. Now, what happened is the moment we set the portal up, portal means that people are paying from their own pocket and reimbursing if it's an official trip. But we made the portal up and running, and then we said that you can register your family members also, and you can take personal tickets also. No problem, because we are getting paid, right? So what happened was, we used to be a very corporate entity serving the government and the PSUs. From there, a large shift has happened for us, where we are also providing tickets for personal travel, holidays. And that is why Srinagar is number 1. Because this year, of course, Srinagar was a washout because of Pahalgam, but I'm talking of last year. Our highest selling destination was Srinagar. What happened is that in the otherwise world, we are actually selling on credit. That means our monies would come almost 60 days, 90 days later. But when you are selling on the portal or on the mobile, you are making the money right at that point in time. Massive change in the working capital. Because otherwise in airlines, we pay first to the airlines. Indigo, you have to pay in advance. Air India in 7 days credit. But our customers are paying us at 60 days because these are mostly the government, PSUs, etc. So we have this arrangement, 45 days, 60 days, collection takes. So the entire thing changed from being largely credit to a lot of that business was coming upfront cash. That is why we are making 70 crore profits from 8-9 crores, because the entire monies that were going away because of cost of effectively credit, that is now coming to my pocket. When people are purchasing by paying their own money, as opposed to companies' money, they are very, very sensitive about the fact that if their money has gone and the ticket is not come, they will immediately call up, send nasty emails. The most number of emails that I get are customer complaint emails. What it means is that we have had to change and raise our service level. So our company has been able to deploy a better call center. It's able to do better refund processing. 90% of these complaints are about refunds. Okay? And so on and so forth. So going back to the Federer moment for us, when you play these key moments and you turn, so Air India disinvestment was one of those key moments where IRCTC could have also done like that, but then IRCTC was, I think, not very bothered because they are still on the railways mode. Ashoka Travels did not have, I think, at that point of time, the wherewithal in terms of technology. The opportunity came to us and we grabbed it. The same thing happens on personal life, or when I say personal life, professional journey of a person. Opportunity comes, you grab it. At that point of time, you're not always very sure whether it's a great opportunity, but you try to do the best that you can. I think that has been, so the whole COVID followed by Air India is an example of where I think the corporate grabbed those opportunities, we played the cards right, and this is where we stand right now, and I think we'll be able to do much, much better. These things will happen in your personal, in that sense, professional journey. So be ready, and at that point of time, just grab it. There's no clue, there's no clarity whether its choices are going to be right. As I said, I moved from TCS to Balmer Lawrie. It was a huge cultural adaptation also, but then I'm not going into that any further. So at that, many times I had self-doubt, so those things will also be there. I think that whole family part I did not touch upon fully, but I think that's super important. So you have to once again be very, very surrounded by very strong family and friends network, because there'll be days and there'll be times when you'll be feeling absolutely pathetic. So it's they who are going to lift you, and they make sure that all of that works out. And it's finally, it's not about just yourself, it's about them also. And last year, this year, when we had the International Women's Day, so we had put together a panel where Mirabai Chanu, silver medalist, Olympic silver medalist, she was on the panel. And so the compare asked as to what is it that you did after you won the silver medal. What she said was, the first thing that I did is I called my mother. It was so superb, and that is how it is. And wish you all the very best. Whether it makes sense or not, I don't know, because I am from a completely different generation. You people are in different generation. Opportunities will come, and I think you'll be absolutely, absolutely ready to make your path for yourselves. So that's it from my side. If there are any questions, I'll take it. And I hope even a part of this, if it makes sense, I'll be very, very happy. Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Hi, sir.
What's the question?
Here, sir. Hi, good afternoon. So the question is, after this many years of experience in corporate, how do you think it has shaped your life? Like, for us, for this generation, how does the corporate world is now, and how it can affect in our personal advancement? Because now the dynamics are too different. What you had in your time, the competition was much lesser. You had more opportunities than us. I mean, competition was still there, but the competition era now has just increased like 10 times. So like, how do you think it will help us advance ourselves personally in like personal life and also like corporate journey? Thank you.
Great question. I think you are very, very correct. I think the competition is incredibly higher because I think we were talking about that just before we came into the hall. I think the batch sizes, I mean, at that point of time, our batch size was just 110, very few IIMs, whereas right now there are so many, and also colleges like yours has also increased the batch size. So, of course, the job opportunities have also gone up, no doubt about it, but when you're looking about as an individual, I think what will always help is making sure that you are willing to, I think, raise your hand and say, I am ready. Okay. Now, whether you are ready or not, I think that is secondary. But the mindset which says that I am ready is going to make a difference to a boss saying that, okay, if she's, because at the end of the day, getting ready is not a problem. But being ready mentally is what I think is the challenge. So getting that willingness to get out of comfort zone and say that, I mean, that is also another thing, I didn't touch upon it, but the fact that if you are doing different things, like if you once again think about myself, I used to be doing some completely different thing compared to what I am doing right now, apart from the whole seniority aspect, but the fact is that I'm doing different things. So being willing to try out new things, being open to this adventure, I think that is going to set you apart. And having that curiosity, I mean, some of you may have watched this Apple TV movie called Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso you watched? So do you remember the darts scene? What happens in the darts scene? So I mean, I'm just speaking for everybody's behalf. So Ted Lasso is this coach of a team, I don't know what team, Richmond. It's like a fictional story, but the owner's estranged husband lays a bet with Lasso in a bar, saying that, and Lasso throws a dart, pretends that he doesn't know how to play darts, etc. That fellow goes and says that, okay, 10,000 pounds wager. And Lasso then picks up the dart with his left hand and then he throws and gets bullseye every time, wins the bet. But then what he says is that growing up, everybody used to underestimate him. But then he realized later that don't be judgmental, but be curious. So that was fantastic, I thought. I mean, in fact, I love watching various kind of sports movies type of thing, because I feel incredible learning comes out there from sports in general. So be curious. So willingness to take up things which are, I think, uncharted, being open, being curious, that is going to set you apart from the others. I think that's the way to look at it. Yeah. So very good question once again. The question that he asked is about, I have talked about road less traveled, and I have also talked about self-doubt. But then his question is that, did I subsequently feel that there was sense of regret? The answer to that is yes, because I'll tell you, when I joined ICICI Venture, at that point of time, I left ICICI Venture within a span of 18 months. So I joined in May 2000 and I left in December 2001, or November 2001, because that was the time when there was nothing happening in the world of venture capital. .com bust had happened, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so had I stuck on, because the world moves in cycles, had I stuck on, then I think I would have had a career in venture capital and private equity, which would have made me much richer than what I have, what I am. So that is once again a reflection. And had I not done that, I could have probably. But then at the end of the day, I can think about it, but then I can't do much about it. So I have to also at the same time look at what has happened to my career since then. And I would have, probably I would draw comfort from the fact that it is probably, I've not been that rich, but then it's been okay. I'm able to, I have a very decent, I think, earning, and I think I have to be just content, because that's also a very vital point, because the world of comparison can only end in despair. So you tend to compare with others, but what you are forcing me to do is comparing me with myself. And had I stuck on with Ice Venture, then what would have happened? That is a comparison. If I start doing, then I'll be nowhere. And similarly, the both of you are sitting next to each other, and he would be getting a job, you would be getting another job. If you start comparing, then it will be the end of life. So I would have to say that staying away from comparison is like very crucial for your mental wellness. Nowadays, there's a lot of talk about mental wellness apart from physical wellness. So I think starting to compare is probably a sure shot method of creating mental illness. But thanks for asking this question. I do think about it.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, sir. Sir, my question is, in a time when many firms are relocating out of Bengal for business advantage, what drives Balmer Lawrie to keep its head operations in Bengal, and why are they rooted in Calcutta?
Okay, why are they rooted in Calcutta? I think historic reasons. At this point of time, you are right that at best, I think I would say around 10% of our business is coming from Bengal. It's not about just moving out of Bengal, but it's just around 10%. But I think it's a bit of legacy, and we are there, and yeah, so maybe we can move to Delhi. MSTC, for example, I mean, I don't know what is the full form for MSTC, but so they actually have their entire office in Calcutta, but they moved their corporate office. The directors, etc., have now started operating out of Delhi. But it's not that we are unhappy. At some point of time, we had a lot more businesses out there. We used to have a drum plant out there, which we've closed down because of the MSME issues, etc. But then it's something that, I don't know, maybe will get considered at some point of time. I don't have any answer for that. But it's primarily for legacy, yeah. Yeah, we'll take, yeah, that lady's question.
Arma Pandey. My question is basically that you had since huge years of experience, and because we are the new generation, as you mentioned. So what is the difference between the working style during your generation and the ones you are getting, like the new employees which you are recruiting? So what's the difference in their working style? I just wanted to know your views on it.
Okay, I think I don't know about the working style, but definitely one thing is for sure that the new generation is much more tech savvy. So the ways and means of using digital and tools, that's going to be very different, and that's part of the style. The other thing that is very different, I think, is I would say the expectation. So at the end of the day, you are part of the Blinkit generation. So the whole thing is that you need to get things very quickly. So at many times, it may be difficult for us organizations to be able to live up to your expectations. So we in the corporate world, especially like a company like a PSU's, a company like ours, which is a PSU, the corporate ladder moves in a much more staid manner, and hence, in order to measure up to your expectations, it's not going to be easy for us. That's something that is definitely there. But of course, the digital part, I think the younger crowd is definitely incredibly smart. So it's very easy because for them to pick up things. I think the ability to pick up things, it's far higher right now. So I think in a shorter span, you probably will be able to pick up things and deliver. So to that extent, the amount of time that is needed in the past for us to make a difference, and the time that is needed for a generation that of yours is to make a difference, that is much, much shorter. So that is something that we love it, but then it's also a challenge. We just have to figure out as to how to make best use of that capability. There's a question here, I think, yeah. Yeah. Just that guy behind. Okay, I'll take it. This and then I'll just take 2 more questions.
So thank you so much, sir. My name is Hitesh from MBA first year itself. So having experience in freight forwarding, I was able to relate a lot with your insights which you shared. So one question, a bit technical, how ERP, like many big companies are implementing it at large scale, but mid-scale and small-scale companies are still not able to get that change mindset in the employees, because ERP is something which is employees are a bit inclining towards Excel only as of now. So what is the change which has to be bring in these companies, and even big companies has to follow the same? So what is the plan of action which they can implement at their own level, and how they can smoothly implement the same?
Yeah, so good question. I think this is an eternal question, because it fundamentally boils down to how you are able to handle change. Okay, so whether it is now or whether it's 20 years back, when anything new comes, there'll be a change resistance. There'll be people who will be wary about what to do, how they are going to, how that's going to impact, etc., etc. So a lot of effort, lot of I think push has to be there in order to how you manage the change. Make sure that you are able to give the right amount of comfort to the people, saying that this is how your job is going to be, this is how your job is going to be, etc., etc. And I think the other thing is that the power of data, that I think has to be brought out much more, because what is the potential of, in today's world, of leveraging the technology, making sure that how we are able to bring that data to insights and so on and so forth, make sure that the particular person's job is much more easily done and the person is much more effective. If we are able to bring home that point with the right kind of change management, I'm sure it's going to be possible. But then quality of data and change management, if we are not getting these two right, then there's a larger chance of failure or suboptimal implementation, I would say. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. So my question is that has there ever been an instance in your career where your personal goals haven't aligned with the goals of the organization, and you being in a leadership position, somebody who's driving where the company is going, how have you dealt with such a situation?
Okay, so the answer when I moved out of TCS is actually sitting out there, because I did mention that I opted out of this journey of IT services world and joined Lawrie at that point of time because it was driven by my personal goals. See, what happens is that the reality is that the IT services world, as you get more experienced, 10 years, 15 years, the customer out there in the US or Europe or wherever, they value you much more because of the gray hair. And the life cycle of individuals is actually the other way around. So when you are a youngster, you are very, very keen of going abroad. The customer is not necessarily very keen to have you there because you are like a greenhorn, so you're going to be learning on the job and so on and so forth. So at that point of time, it was happening so that I was being kind of pushed for projects abroad where I would have had to stay there for a longer time. Unlike in my Infosys time when I was doing only short hauls, it would have been a long haul. So this was an example of an instance which was a life-changing one, frankly, where the organization was thinking that the best way that they leverage me is by placing me abroad for a longer duration, but that was not working for me from a personal basis. So at that point of time, I had to make a choice. So I quit and I joined this company. So this is how it is. So at that, I mean, yeah, at some point of time you will have to prioritize, but then it has to be very fundamental, I think, and make sure that when you're making, see, there are choices which people make because of relatively, I would say, relatively trivial reasons, but think hard about when you're making the choice and make sure that when you're making the choice, you are able to stand by it. In my case, I made the choice and I stood by it. Of course, I had subsequently also self-doubts and low times, but then it worked out. So, I mean, there's no right answer for that. Okay? Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an inspiring and insightful lecture. I would now like to call upon Professor Saurav Chaudhary, Kiran Sharma ma'am, and Aparna ma'am to felicitate sir with a small token of appreciation.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I think one thing Adhip missed to tell you or advise you is keep learning and keep upskilling. Do you know how I know Adhip? No, you don't know. He is 56, I am 61. We both are doing PhD now.
Round of applause.
Does he need to do? As per Maslow's hierarchy, he has reached the self-actualization stage. He doesn't need to do anything more. But he still decides to do that. And I still decide to do that. So guys, the biggest advice for all of you is keep upskilling and keep uplearning, otherwise you will be obsolete. Okay? Thank you, Adhip. Thank you very much for the session.
Yeah,
I think...
Since he mentioned about this, one thing that was cited in my, okay, she read out my CV actually. I am also a certified coach. Okay, now that is also very important because not about being certified, but I feel that I am actually able to take many members of the organization. We are actually trying to put in a coaching culture in the organization. So coaching is also something that I've actually picked up in the last 3-4 years. So coaching as a journey and this doing PhD as a journey, both are in that sense what Professor Saurav has just mentioned. It's about making sure that I keep my learning cogs up and running and keep trying to do some things which helps me become much more, I think, effective, even because I know exactly the date that I'm going to retire. So once I'm done, I'm not going to be the CMD of Balmer Lawrie. So the chair has a lot of weight. I don't have that much weight. So I have to make sure that I am carrying some of my own weight as I go forward. So that is something that I am doing for myself. You people will also have to do, I think that question that girl had asked, she's now, I don't know, oh, you are there now. So that learning thing that I talked about is actually, its bottom line is that keep yourself upgraded because, I mean, as I said, I love sports. So Tendulkar, beat Dhoni, beat whoever. At the end of the day, performance is on a daily basis. In corporate, actually, it's much easier. If you get onto a chair, you can sit tight for some more time. But in sports, in performing arts, you are performing every day. And if you are misfiring 3 matches, then there'll be somebody else to take your spot. Okay, so I think that's very important. I think very good point that he mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Adhip. I think it's all yours. Say something.
The shawl is made from our own institute, runs handicraft, and also it consists of biography by Padma Bhushan Shri Karamshi Jethabai Sumaya. Seated.